Is this thing live? It looks like it's live. We're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this, filmed with a potato here at the shop. Hey, so first of all, got to get the business stuff out of the way first. Guys, for all of y'all that have sent super thanks, I really want to appreciate that, or let you know that I appreciate that. I don't always get notified for those the way that I do when I get super chats on these live shows. So for you guys that have done that, thank you all so very much. Also, want to say, listen, if you're watching this after the show was filmed live and you're getting bombarded with ads, go ahead and X out of the video, give it a day or two, and then come back and check it out. It just means that I haven't had a chance to pull all of the automatically uploaded ads that, I don't know, YouTube does that. And so I've got to go in and manually extract those. So anyway, there's that business out of the way. Again, hope y'all are having a great one. Let's dive into this because we've got a lot to chat about here. So first of all, kind of an interesting thing. Let's go ahead and jump on the elephant in the room. No pun intended. Yeah. With Black Ghost car selling for what in essence was what, $1 million? Or at least close enough to it to call. Interesting. And the problem that I have with that, aside from the fact that the story is more or less completely a fabrication and it's just legend selling, is it's just one more car that is going to be sold for so much money that you'll never really see it. You'll never really be able to appreciate the other versions of that car that are out there, namely all the rest of the survivor cars that are running around that are going to be way overinflated now in value. So, the reality, and a lot of guys have touched on this before. I am absolutely not the first and won't be the last to talk about Black Ghost in this way. But again, when you take a bone stock personal luxury vehicle that would be doing really well to run a high 13-second quarter mile time with a set of slicks, by the way, that's kind of a proven number out of a street-oriented street Hemi car. You're not winning races with that thing, and especially not in a street race scenario. But it's a cute story, and it's a neat car. It just doesn't need the Santa Claus or Tooth Fairy level of legend and nonsense fabrication to make it a neater car than what it is. It's got an excellent backstory without the nonsense. It just sucks that people bought into a story, and this just goes to illustrate, this is the point that I'm trying to get to. This just goes to illustrate the level of disconnect that there is with folks when it comes to muscle cars, legend building, and basically the best way to put it is, don't let facts ruin a good story. It's an old saying, but in this case, it's a pretty legit issue. So anyway, yeah, you're not going to take a net horsepower, 390 horsepower Hemi, and that's what they were net rated at, by the way. You're not going to take one of those things, stock manifolds, on a set of bias ply tires and really beat anything, especially by today's standards. That's really worth talking about, but especially back then when you had a lot of really heavy hitters that were hitting the streets with some heavy artillery. You're talking max wedge cars were running the streets back then. Lots of Skunk Works type products were hitting the streets. A lot of different projects were hitting the streets back then as well, with power plants and combinations that were set up literally to extract money from people's wallets. I mean, this is back when money racing was really getting heavy. Just the other side of the early 60s, this started hitting hard in those areas. You had areas not only in Detroit, but Chicago, Houston, Dallas, obviously LA, San Francisco area. A lot of these folks, and all points in between, right, that had heavy hitting cars that would absolutely mollywop anything that was specced out like that Black Ghost. Lots of really cool street cars, though, and you can never take that away from a car like that, especially one that was as cool looking as the Ghost. So anyway, I just don't like the fact that somebody was trying to play this as a street racing legend, like it had some kind of outlaw background, when in reality it was just a really neat street car. So anyway, So there's that. I also wanted to touch a little bit on a quick video that I put out there that I think has the highest growth rate of any video that I've ever put out, which was my Ford Raptor Ranger video. And the funny thing about that, so I wanted to touch on that little play-by-play thing that I did with their Pride version of the Ranger Raptor, whatever all the rest of the names are going to call it. But anyway, what's funny is that was a one-take thing that I did really quickly. And I didn't, obviously I never do any editing, but I just kind of put it together, had a little bit of fun with it and sent it on its way. I did have to kill the comments in that video though. Guys were getting a little bit ugly, and you know, I'm not about the hate thing. So I went ahead and just 86 that part of it. But what's funny is I really could have gone a bit more in depth, and I could have had a little bit more fun with that than I did. But I just, the main point was just to give a play-by-play and to, you know, kind of give a little bit of a rub to Ford on that. I didn't want to have a like an in-depth reasoning video for that that commercial. I just want to have a little bit of fun with it. But thanks to everybody that's watched it, because I think it's sitting at like at the time of this video in the last I don't know, 16 or 18 hours it's been alive. It's got like 9,000 views. So hey, any publicity is good publicity. So anyway, thanks y'all for supporting that video as well. But let me check in with you guys really quickly, and then I've been getting quite a few questions about so I say quite a few. They've been kind of there's two main focus points that guys have been asking me about. One is DS versus DT RAM. How's Stormy doing? What's the latest with that? And could I get any more in depth on data from the DS to the DT RAM and what I've found between the two? So we can definitely talk about that. It's just tuning stuff. So I can already hear some folks tuning out at this point once I start getting into the nerd part of this. But anyway, there's that. And then camshafts have been coming up again quite a bit, which is kind of weird. And that also fantails a little bit with some exhaust questions that I've been getting. So if y'all want to get into that stuff, we can talk about that, and I can walk y'all through what works and what doesn't work. Again, camshaft wise, I know a lot of you guys that have seen these videos and seen the lives and have been part of the back and forth on this. Y'all already know what I'm going to say, but I'll walk y'all through it too, because there's a lot of folks that are new to Mopar, new to the platform, the Challengers and Chargers. They're coming from different backgrounds, and so they're not elevated yet. They just haven't had a chance to learn anything, and so because they're too new, they're just new to the game. So that's why I'm here to try to help folks along and Sherpa their way through the whole Mopar verse. So Marco is in, my boy. What's up, brother? Zero is in, saying you are the man. Thank you, Zero. Appreciate that. Roy is in. What's up, Mr. B? What's up, Roy? Daniel's in. Howdy, Professor. Hey, Sovereign Knight. Got the cadence. Got the flex with the ball guy with the shades. I like it. Bass is in, saying happy Saturday. Robo, good evening. X is in, my man. What's up? Roy, checking in with Sovereign. Bass saying, this is Chuck Rice. Revamp my channel a little. Saw that. Thank you, sir. I like it. Marco is saying, turbo regular cab gives me headaches. Yeah, I can imagine. Anything turbo, it's not like it's hard to deal with, but it's just a plumbing issue for me that drives me nuts. I've grown a little bit lazy. I just really like supercharging. Although there's nothing that beats the cheat code that is turbo. Complex is in. Oh, he's got the cadence too. Got the ball guy with the shades. I like it with the flex. X is in saying, do you think it's worth getting some short tube headers to replace the long manifold in my 5.7? Yes and no. See, here's the problem that I've got. You have to be able to tune your vehicle to put any kind of header, especially on a truck. Well, especially on anything, just with the extra noise. And it's not the noise out of the back. It's just there's no log manifolds are typically quieter. Just they're thick, they're metal, and they don't transmit or transfer a lot of that tinging sound. There's an audible sound that those things make. Sorry, I'm getting lit up over here, guys. That the knock sensors will pick up on, and it'll piss them off. And we can talk about that really too, just in general. But with the trucks, it's really bad. It's really bad just because the trucks are just full of short-term knock retard. I've got a data log that and I don't have screen share with this, which kind of sucks, but golly, that DS is terrible with short-term knock retard. Anyway, you do have to tune the knock sensor sensitivity to a point where you no longer have the false knock. And that's one of the big headaches that guys run into. And back in the day, so let me kind of bring into this part of it. Back in the day, tuners in general would just absolutely kill the knock sensors. They would put them or set them to a voltage that rendered them inoperable because of all the short-term knock retard issues that they would run into. So, are they worth it? If I was to do it, I would do long tubes. I mean, you might as well get the benefit from long tubes. Long tubes, you're not going to get any more horsepower, but you will get more low-speed torque, low RPM torque, I should say, which can help you. It helps with cruise, helps with that slight tip-in acceleration when you're going down the highway. It adds a little bit of flavor to the driving experience that the shorties just won't. You may pick up the same horsepower for both, but you'll pick up, actually, you might even pick up technically, say 2 or 3 more horsepower with the shorty up top, but the long tube will have more torque down low for sure. I'd go that way if it were me. Daniel would say, I definitely recommend long tube. So there you go. Roy saying, dang, battery low, have to charge. Is my stuff plugged in? It is. Robo said, source told me 5 to 550 horsepower Hurricane Charger Challenger in the works with retro styling on 3,600-pound platform. Cool. I'm a player at that. Listen, bring it on. You guys know I'm a dumb ass sucker for inline 6 turbo combinations. So, deal me in. I'd love to see it if they can do it, but don't know. And there kind of is a timeline with this. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, at some point they have to give us something, but unfortunately you're going to have people really start to migrate away from Mopar if Dodge doesn't start doing something sexy quick. You know how that goes. Base is in saying, I think my Challenger Scat would beat the Black Ghost. Mine was 60 grand. Your Challenger would absolutely annihilate the Ghost. So okay, guys, let me put something. Hold on, let me get my beverage real quick. So let me put something into perspective for you guys. This is where old school guys really get stung. The number of real, honest to God, honest and for true 12-second cars, legit ass 12-second cars from the 60s that were street legal, that weren't one-off drag race combinations. What the freaking heck went up my face? There was about 3. Okay. Anything with an L88, some of the L78 Chevelles would get there. And if you prepped a Hemi contraption the right way, it might get there. With 456 gears, 411 gears, maybe might not even be enough. Slicks and the rest of it. In other words, you have to prep it. You have to do stuff like this guy right here with a set of, drag racing wheels and tires and really low DA with a hell of a tune-up, by the way, guys. And even then, asking it to get it done with stock manifolds, although very free-flowing, so you're up against it, okay? To just throw that kind of wheel and tire setup down there on a Scatty and you go out there and run in just flat kind of air 12.0s, 12.1, you're deep on the other side of a number that they are having a hard time getting into, talking about the 12s to begin with. So, okay, let me illustrate a point for you guys. Y'all know that I spend a lot of my times on a drag. I've spent a lot of time on a drag strip, and a lot of times you get to see vintage iron get after it. Okay. A 440 Challenger versus a 340 Cuda is a very good race. And both of those cars are 15-second cars. I want to let that sink in for a second. Both of them in ho-hum air. These are street cars on street tires. Both of them are 15-second cars. To put that into perspective, Buffy, my tradesman Ram, in crap air, 89 octane with, I don't know what the hell is going on with the knock sensors in that thing, with a questionably working short runner valve actuator, runs 1450s. And it's a stock truck. Now, think about that for a minute. And it's on stock tires too. And there's a lot of technology that's moved on, but just know that that's, and I've seen it, and I know the cars. I know that they run well. Is there a traction issue? A little bit, but they're on street tires. It's a street car, and it's not like they're trapping 15 teens at 110 miles an hour. These are 15 teens at like 97, 99 miles an hour. They're making up for it on the back half. Don't get me wrong. But you see what I'm saying? So yeah, there's a big disconnect from reality. Let's see. See, Daniel's saying, then yes, definitely be careful who you take it to. A lot of tuners tend to leave so much power sitting on the table on those 5.7s. When tuning it, they don't speak Mopar. Well, what happens is, it's not so much that they leave power on the table. It's that they just don't know what to adjust to keep it from hemorrhaging power. You got to remember that you start putting long tubes or shorties on a 5.7 without a tune, you will actually lose power. You could go from making your factory rated 400 horsepower, which is what they all pretty much make, by the way. You go from 400 horsepower to, 350, 370 because it's yanking all this time. I'll put it to you like this. I got this. Hold on. Y'all won't be able to see this, but let me pull this up. This is one of Buffy's watt hits. This thing got into cat. Can you believe this? The truck got into cat overtemp. It looks like Command AFR. This is just too nutty. Command AFR on this hit. Once it hit fifth gear, 9.79 to 1. Let that, 9.52 was the worst. At the top of fourth, though, 1091, Pig Rich, with 5 degrees of knock retard. There's no reason to have any knock retard. The truck's got good gas in it. No reason whatsoever. Oh, by the way, for you guys that were asking, I guess we can talk about the truck stuff here really quickly. The DT Ram KPA, which is basically the kind of a measure of the efficiency of the intake track. The DT Ram is actually better. You wouldn't be able to tell it by looking at it, but the DT Ram is actually a little bit better than the DS Ram. Even though the DS Ram looks like it would flow more, the data is actually better on the DT. Now, I will admit that, there could be some variances in there with like the type of filter that's used in the airbox. Although I can tell you the filter that's in the airbox in Buffy, which is a DS Ram, is brand new. And of course, at Stormy, it's a brand new truck. So there's that. But she's running the stock filters, and the KPA data actually looks better with the DT. So kind of a weird deal for that. Base, no, yours was mild compared to some of the stuff that I saw. So that's the reason why I killed it. Don't worry about that. Zero's asking, how do I get with you about tuning? So I don't do tuning for the general public. I have helped folks out before with tunes. I've peer-reviewed tunes for guys. I've done a lot of track adjustments for folks when I worked for Pikes Performance. And I'm still very much available if he needs anything like that done, although our track did shut down. But anytime Alex would need something, I would always make sure that I would make myself available to him. Good friend of mine, Alex Pikes, and I worked for him for a while. So, I definitely want to make sure that if he needed anything in that respect, I would help. Other shops I would do the same for as well, but I do not do tuning for the general public. And let me I will steer you in the right direction, though. I will steer you into the direction of people that I know can take care of you and that I know will do a very good job, that speak fluent Mopar, and that I would take my vehicles to, and that I have taken my vehicles to. Give Alex Peitz, it's Peitz, a shout. Tell them that I sent you, and they will take very good care of you. Let them know what you need, and let them know that you talked to me about it. But yeah, okay. So one of the reasons why I don't do any type of internet tuning or remote tuning or anything like that, guys, it's excruciating if you don't have the vehicle in front of you. If I don't have the means to be able to smoke check it, to be able to get load testing on the car on the front end, which a lot of people get really weird about. They kind of take it like I'm banging their girlfriend. It's not like that at all. But I load tested every vehicle that came through the shop. That means that it goes through wide open throttle cycles before we even touch it to make sure everything is healthy. Believe me, it saved us a ton of money and headaches when I would find cars that were mechanically unfit for tuning. And so there's that. And even when you can work with somebody on a remote tuning deal, it's like revision after revision after revision on transmission tuning. And so I got to the point where I would just say, look, this is my transmission protocol, period. It fits 95% of everybody's tastes. No, I'm not going to keep making adjustments until that one little shift that you're worried about is just fits your booty just fine. So there's a lot of headaches that would come with it. And, but I still enjoy helping folks out. If I'm at the track and, I am perusing data and I'm seeing issues, I've actually saved some guys' engines before. So I still do try to get involved where I can, but for GP, I cannot do that. But give Alex a shout. They can get you taken care of. And they do in-house unlocking as well. Dan was saying, I'm ready for the knowledge. Let me know what you got questions on. I hope that I can answer them for you. Just going back up. Anything's better than the stuff that comes on the 5.7s. True that. Very true that. Although you'd be surprised just how well the logs tend to work. It's kind of funny that they're not ideal, but they're not too bad. You got to remember, Stormy's out there running 13s full weight DT quad cab. So let's see. Let me check. Let's see. Oh, Dad saying, seen a Hornet for the first time and they look horrendous, dude. They look worse in person than they do in the terrible commercials that they're making. I still, oh my God, Dodge. Okay, the Hornet commercial is wearing so thin with me. And one of the thing that wears the thinnest with me is the guy that's saying like stab me with your stinger or get me with your, like, it's just cringy as hell. I don't know. Oh, it's just awful. And I'm sorry, but it's just another, I can't want to get into it. Let's stick with some positive things. And if I end up losing it later on that, it's just because I can't let it go. Marco's saying, I have a new body and I think I like the old body better. Also, what did the plastic control arms? Classic Ram is best. Oh, they did the polymer control arms. Weight savings and other than that, I don't know. They didn't really run into any issues with them. But it is weird to use a polymer in that respect. You gotta remember it's an upper. What he's talking about is there's a lower control arm and an upper control arm. The upper control arm is just there. It doesn't really provide any structure. It's just there to basically have a position to adjust camber, really more than anything else, and caster, I guess, for that matter. But traditionally, that's a metal piece. And Dodge decided to go with a polymer piece, and I don't know why they did it. But Marco's saying he likes the older one better. He's liking the Classic. Here's the weird thing about the Classic when we're talking about Rams, and this is something that, so I'm working on putting together a comparison between Buffy and Stormy. I've got to do my 10,000 or 12,000 mile update on Stormy, kind of my thoughts on that truck, the way that I did my original Ram back in the day. It's that video is my highest viewed video that I ever did. And by the way, fun fact for you guys that are on here, if you look, it's like a my thoughts thing, like what I recommend this truck again. So a lot of times is the way that I got started is that my wife goes to sleep really early a lot of times. And so it just gives me some free time to do stuff like this. So I was actually not even going to make that video. And but as it turned out, she had to work early. I was just kind of bored, and I thought, well, let me just give a rundown of the truck. I mean, maybe somebody will pay attention to that. I didn't really have any. I was very early on in the channel, and it just really blew up since then. So it's good stuff. But one of the weird things about the Classic versus the DT, and I cannot wrap my head around this, the Classics feel, even though they are numerically slower, Stormy is in condition for condition about half a second quicker in the quarter mile. And it's significantly quicker to 60. You would never know it by driving the two vehicles. If I were to put you in my Classic and then put you in my DT, you would swear that the Classic would run circles around the DT. It won't, and it doesn't. The data agrees with that. The quarter mile and 0 to 60 and all that agree with that statement. It's heavier. I mean, the Classic is than the DT. I can't explain to you why, but even with the jacked up data that I get on data logs with that truck, it is still a peppy, very peppy truck to drive. It's not that Stormy isn't. It's just that stock for stock, all the chips are in the DT's favor, but the Classic seems to come out in the end. Now, granted, Stormy now is a completely different animal, and that truck is legitimately strong. I mean, you drive Stormy and you know where your money's been spent with the tune on that thing. That truck is legitimately quick. In fact, that truck has put a hurting on everybody that is rolled up on it, which is hysterical. And but it doesn't feel, it does, but it doesn't feel like a deep, the Classic Ram. This is a perfect way to describe it. Now that y'all just kind of triggered a thought. The Classic Ram, talking about like a quad cab version of both the DT and the DS, which is the new truck, or the Classic and the new truck. The Classic Ram is a lot like a Charger, if you will, with the way that it feels, with the way that it kind of reacts underfoot by comparison to the DT, which is a lot like a 300. So the DT is quieter, it's smoother, it carries loads way better than the Classic. Tows better, does all of that better, is technically quicker, although you'd never know it by driving it. Again, you would swear that the Classic is quicker, faster, and everything else. Even though I can't even find in the tune, aside from maybe some cam phasing that, in my experience, doesn't make enough of a difference to even talk about, other than it's just worth mentioning as a difference between the two trucks. Again, all of the chips are in the DT's favor, but the Classic just offers up a little bit more of a sporty type of a driving experience. I'll let you know when I get that figured out. Oh, Roy's saying, I think the scat will beat the ghost. No, it would run out of that car's life. They saying running 1190 on the street radios, but those collector cars are getting stupid expensive with old school numbers. Here's my problem with it, guys. Look, I've got 2 cars that I'm looking for right now to put in the shop, and I cannot find one of these cars to save my ass at a price that I'm willing to pay for them. You know, I've had a crush on Mark III Lincolns for a long time, but that's really, I don't want one. That's one that is a lot more satisfying to want than to own. But if I could find a clean disco era El Camino or Nova, I would be a player. Those are some cars that I've kind of always really wanted. And that is a car that I'm actively searching for right now. And I cannot find one at what I would consider to be a reasonable price. And it is driving me absolutely nuts. And the thing is what I don't understand, you know, we're talking about values of cars. You know, the Black Ghost just sold for a boatload of money. But when we're talking about the values of some of these cars, one of the key takeaways here that I keep looking at is the fact that I'm looking at cars that do not have overdrive transmissions. And in my opinion, that immediately strips about $5,000 to $7,000 worth of value out of any vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's a truck, a car, or whatever. If it can't keep up with modern day traffic speeds, 80, 90 miles an hour on the highway, which is a legit number that we're all running, right? Then it's not even worth my time, especially if it's going to be a situation where I'm going to have to gear the car in a way that's just going to make it a turd in general. So, you know, I'm looking at this prospect. Okay, I've got to run a 700 R4. I'm going to have to do all this other stuff. That's why I'm focusing on GM for these projects, which again would be really cool. But again, the problem that we keep running into when we're looking for these things is that the values have just gone absolutely bananas crazy. Trying to find a Duster, trying to find a Nova, an Elko, trying to find anything really from the era that I'm looking at even is just, yeah, it's a real head scratcher and it's driving me nuts, but somebody's paying the money. So there's that. Alex saying, what's up, Mr. B? What's going on, brother? Steven saying, when do you think prices will return to pre-pandemic levels? Forced RT Challengers, will the new Mustangs cause a drop in price of used Mopar? I think what you're looking at here is you're going to see a lot of, and I misspoke in a way, but I was kind of right when I misspoke this. I said in one of the videos, I said that your best place to find a good deal on a used Mopar is in the used car dealership portion of your Dodge dealership. I meant to say Ford, but the more I got to thinking about it, it's like, well, is it really? Because there were a lot of folks that were just selling their cars as used cars. To, if you had a Dodge, the used car dealerships were paying pretty decent money for Dodge products just to have them on the floor. So, not that I meant to go there with it, but you know, in a way, it's like, oh yeah, there was a time when Dodge dealerships were paying top dollar for Dodge cars. It was kind of weird. LMT saying, I've heard that stall. You might be talking about the stall speed on the DS versus the DT. My understanding, it's still the same. It's the same part number. If I remember correctly, it's not that it's a tighter stall that I know of in the DTs. Roy, what's up, buddy? Saying, go Elko, bro. Listen, so I've had a weird fascination with El Caminos ever since I was a kid. For you guys that don't know the story, my grandfather had a 69, was it 69 or 70 SS Elko. He used to terrorize the streets with that thing, his black one. And I always loved them. Thought they were really cool. And, you know, I was more attracted to the bigger body cars. So I liked the disco era, 76, 77, 78 era Elkos. So and Novas too. I've always liked those. I'm kind of weird like that, but I always like I like the disco era cars mainly because they were just, I don't know, different. I don't know. I just was drawn to them. Anyway, I can't find one to save to save my life, again, at a price that I'd be willing to pay for it. And I don't get the numbers that people are throwing around with these cars. They say his mechanic friend transplanted a 527 into his Elko. I tell you what, so here's what would be the combination for the Elko. It would not be LS powered. Against, what a lot of folks would think, it would still be small block Chevy. It'd be a 400 small block, 30 over 406, AFR 195s, RPM air gap, probably some type of a brawler 750, long tubes. The cam would be a 232, 238 on a 110, intake center line at 109. Obviously roller and with lift around about half an inch, about 500, actually 515 on the intake side, probably 530 on the exhaust. That's what the combination would be. On an engine dyno, it would probably be close to about 500 horse small block. So it would be pretty sick, but it would have torque all over the place. It'd be a tire frying appliance. And that's the combination that would go for either one of those cars. It'd be a solid mid to low 11-second car. 700 R4 with 373 gears. Let's see. Let me get back up to you guys. But Roy, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. And I don't know why it's not coming up here on the screen. It's only in the feed with the super chats lately. Kind of weird. Let's see. Let me get back up here to you guys. Oh, basically, of course, when Black Ghost was street racing in Detroit, it was old school muscle. Well, there was a lot of old school muscle that had been really well massaged. So I'm saying I kind of guessed that the Black Ghost would fetch close to $1 million. Yeah, that's what you and I were talking about that. Matter of fact, saying whoever won it valued the car that much. I think that the story is cool. And yes, like all legends, they tend to get skewed a lot, actually. Yeah, unfortunately. It's just saying, good day, sir. Good day. LMH saying, I've heard that stall converters can stall higher than they did when you add more horsepower and torque to the engine. That is 100% correct. They all do that. Is this true? Can you explain why this happens? I would love to. It's a very good question. So you have to remember that a torque converter is nothing more than a fluid coupler. That's it. And the old way that people used to explain how a torque converter works is they would put two fans in front of each other with one of them plugged in and running, and just the air blowing across would make the other fan spin. And that's, although very overly simplistic, that is how a fluid coupler works. Now, without getting into the stators and how that generates torque multiplication, just know that a fluid coupler will stall higher with a higher torque load. In the same way that if you're stirring batter, let's say you're making a cake, okay, and you're stirring batter and you leave the bowl just alone, like you don't touch the bowl, you don't hold the bowl, and you just turn the spoon in the batter, you can turn your hand faster than the bowl is going to turn. If you turn the same speed, but you move your spoon further out, generating more torque and leverage, and you still move that fast, you can actually make the thing spin faster, or it'll spin the same speed with more force. It's the same idea. You've got more torque that you're putting into the fluid coupler. It can only, if it is at a stall brake position, the only way it can deal with the extra power is that you will just make the thing spin faster. You're putting more torque into it. The bowl in this case, the converter will just spin faster. That's why. So let's say you have a torque converter, and the torque converter at 400 pound-feet of torque will stall at 3,000 RPM. Depending on the converter, because everyone's a little bit different. But if you have a vehicle now with 450 foot-pounds of torque, instead of 3,000 RPM, it may stall at 3,200 RPM. The torque converter hasn't changed, but the application has, because you're using a different engine, if you will. Well, at least the same engine with different components is a different engine, isn't it? So that's why a converter will still stall at a higher RPM with a larger or more powerful, for whatever reason, engine. The converse is true, though, and this is where guys really can get screwed up. Let's say that you have an engine and it's making 400 foot-pounds of torque, and you put a more performance-oriented cam into that car. Well, the engine may make 450 foot-pounds of torque, but it does it at a much later RPM. Down low, it could be making significantly less torque, which would mean that the converter will stall. And really, it's the converter creating a stall condition at a lower RPM, which would make the car want to surge at stoplights, which means that you need to have a converter with a higher stall speed, not because you want it to stall higher up at peak torque, but because you want it to stall down low when you're parked at a red light. So a few things you have to look at. There's a couple of different directions that you have to take a look at that scenario. And that's why when people put a big cam in their car, you have to couple that big cam with a looser converter, because technically you're making less torque where the converter is going to try to stall. Daniel's saying, yes, I agree with you guys 100%. The Black Ghost is definitely one of those things that whoever paid that much money is because they value the history of it and has the money to burn. Well, they value the story. Let's just, the history of it, that history is based presumably in facts, but the story, he's paying for the story. Oh, Roy's saying fastest inline six I've been in was a Datsun 280 in 78 over 140 miles an hour. You can get going. He's saying I'd rather have a Black Ghost Hellcat. I get that. Oh, so I'm saying having the build sheet, and also the owner was the one who managed to get Dodge to have the shaker hood on the Challenger. Good. Very cool. All cool stuff. I mean, like I say, they're, yeah, and based saying car belongs in a museum. I would say that I guess it does. It's a unique car in how it is optioned. It's not a driver. There's, and this is why you don't need to have some kind of street racing Batman disappearing into the night type of thing. It is a really cool car on its own, right? There's no need to embellish the story any further. It doesn't, I don't know. I don't know that it actually serves the car any better to have the story behind it. Oh, Sovereign saying, in the end, the car is remarkable despite it being inferior by today's standard. But remember, the Dodge Challenger would not be if it wasn't for the OG. Well, true. But again, you can't look at it in terms of the new car. That's the whole point of what I was saying earlier. The issue, though, is that these older cars are taking on lives of their own. And I don't see the value in adding bits and pieces of a story and then, thatching together something that is not true for a car that's already really cool. And the funny thing about it is that, okay, so we wouldn't have the latest Challenger if it wasn't for the OG. Okay, well, let's look at it from another perspective. The original Challenger had a 5-year run, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. That's it. And then after that, there was really nothing remarkable about the car. In fact, the only remarkable years for the Challenger were 70 and 71, the Hemi years. So after that, there wasn't a big block available. And so really you're only hanging an entire, 15-year run now? 2008, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So yeah, you're looking at like 15 or 16 model years. I've run out of math in my head this evening. Anyway, on basically 2 years worth of production cars, which is funny to me. So if it wouldn't have been one, it would have been something else. And really, if we want to talk about legends and really spurring on a movement, that would be the Mustang. Say what you will about Ford and whatever else they're up to these days, but back in 2005, when they dropped all the retro styling initially, which were the first ones to do it, that opened up the ability and the market for other manufacturers to take a look at it and do with it what they will. Dodge did an amazing job with the Challenger. Weird, though, that they didn't do it with the Cuda. Would have been probably maybe a little bit better play, although the Cuda doesn't have the panache that the Challenger does with movie roles and things like that. Plus, it's kind of hard to base a Mustang E type of a car, like a Mustangish kind of a car, off of an E-Series Mercedes-Benz platform. If they were to do that, they'd have been better off going with the C-Series, which I still can't believe that they didn't do. It's a really weird thing for me. Even back then, when I saw the Challenger for the first time, I loved it because the proportions were perfect. But knowing what I knew about the E63 and the C63, and really the predecessor to that, which would be the E55, I never could wrap my head around why they didn't Cuda-ize the C-Series. Anyway, kind of a weird deal. But anyway, Jeremy saying, I have a question. I traded my 6-speed RT for a 22 8-speed RT. I've driven another 5.7, but this thing feels a lot faster. It has a 307 conventional rear, but spins both. You can still get them to spin both. It's just if one side breaks traction significantly, then you're only going to have the one speed or the one tire spinning. But if you're on dry pavement and you launch it straight, it'll light up both of them. Bakes is saying, question B, does changing 0W20 full synthetic oil brands make any difference in my 6.4? My old tech wants me back. You're not putting 0.20 in that car. You're putting 0.40 in that car, aren't you? You need the 0.40 for the temperatures that thing runs. So, yeah, if anybody put 0.20 in that car, that's definitely not a good thing. But no, changing brands won't matter at all, frankly. If you're using commercially available synthetics, I have done excruciatingly deep dives into motor oil, and I can tell you the ones that I like. So 0.40, I like Castrol, B5, which is really good. But any of the Pennzoil or Mobil 1 variants of the 0.40, they're actually really all good. So you can start getting into like the Amsoil or the Lucas and all of that. Redline. I've got some. In fact, let's go through that. I mean, I don't have the ability to share a screen with you, unfortunately. So you're just going to be hearing me yammering on over here. But let me open up my file, 0W40. Castrol Edge Euro A3, Castrol Edge 5W40 A3B4 is my favorite of those. Really good oil. Mobil 1 full synthetic 0.40 is also really good. High viscosity index with that product, by the way. Pennzoil Premium, another high viscosity index product is in there as well. Mobil 1 ESP, another very high viscosity index product, meaning has really good base stock. But really, most of them are not bad. I mean, you get into Golly, I've got so many on this list. Just keeps going on and on and on. Let's see. There really aren't any that I would say to stay away from. Again, all of the more, except for one, Valvoline. I've had guys tell me that they've had issues with Valvoline products, mainly in base stock. They just don't use as high of a base stock as some of these have. Triax, probably not as good as well. Shell Helix, 5W40, also one I would stay away from just from a viscosity index number. Although I will say this, if you're changing your oil regularly, a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter. Royal Purple is actually decent too. So there's a lot of decent products that are out there. Again, if it's commercially available and it says synthetic and it's a name that you recognize, then the oil itself is going to be good. But if you guys have questions about oil, I know y'all can't see it because I can't do a share on the screen, but I'm looking at one of my spreadsheets I put together that is very in depth, and I've got data on this from 20 weight, 30 weight, 40 weight. I've got SAE guidelines, all kinds of stuff in this thing that I did, just because I had the same questions that you guys had. Namely, what are some of the oils and what are the ones that I want to stay away from? And eerily enough, they all are kind of decent. And I know that you can send stuff out to Blackstone and they'll tell you whatever you want to hear sometimes with the oil that you're using. And they're typically going to give it a pretty decent number, mainly because they're all pretty decent oils. Mobil 1 and Pennzoil, though, and Castrol are the ones I would stick to. And for you, 040 or 5W40 always. Let's see. Zero saying thanks. Thank you. Saying, oh, Daniel's hanging out with Jeremy. Oh, for moving over to the different Brimbos and spindles. Yeah, I've given up on that. I'm just going to stick with the Hellcat stuff on my end. Oh, Sovereign saying if the original Vanishing Point car still existed, I'm sure they would fetch a pretty penny. I think somebody's got a hold of one of those. The Vanishing Point stuff, really cool car, by the way. Also, another fun fact: there none of the Mopars that were ever really considered iconic were ever Hemi cars. They were all 440 or 383 cars. Let's see. Hemi Dad is in. What is up? Base is in with. I like the emoji. Very cool. Someone saying, "Stab me with your stinger." Yeah, that's. What does he say? What does that dude say? Like, I don't violate me with your proboscis or whatever the guy's screaming into the void. I have no idea. It's just terrible. It's cringy and it's unnecessary. And you can't sex up a jelly bean shaped crossover. You can't. It doesn't work like that. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating because it's unnecessarily stupid. They saying, get out the Black Flag. Black Flag's a good band. Henry Rollins, baby. Sovereign's not liking fours. New Dad saying, Hornet Swarm thing is so bad. Brotherhood of Muscle my ass. My wife's Pacifica is a 4-liter V6. Get you a Pepsi if you want a 2-liter. Someone saying, I want to see more hype in cars with the Hurricane 6 at least. Where the hell are they? Man, I tell you what. Can't find them saying, hey, finding a Viper for cheap. Is it stupid to look for a salvage title one for a Hurricane 6? No, I can't find a salvage Viper to save my life. And again, y'all know I've got a long, deep, and varied history with, having owned 3 Vipers in the past. They don't exist. And here's the problem. The Gen 2 GTS is arguably, I don't want to say the sexiest, but it's the worst of the group objectively. Gen 3 and Gen 4 are really where it's at if you want to find one for a hot rod project, and good luck. I can't find one. Not especially not for a number. Here's the other thing. I don't know where this is the weird part of this whole transitional thing, because Gen 3, Gen 4 Vipers are objectively slow by today's standards. And people want a lot of money for them. Gen 2s, they're wanting crazy money for. And it's like paying extra money to walk into a suicide booth getting into one of those cars. So I don't know. You know, what's messed up is that it's been a number of years ago, I had an opportunity to buy one of my old Vipers back, and it did have a blown up engine, and I was an idiot not to pick it up, but there wasn't an option. Like, I should have just 2JZ swapped it. If I'd have been smart, I'd have done that, but sorry, no, I don't think they exist. Marco's asking 6.4 regular cab or 5.7 Hemi turbo, 6 pounds. What am I taking? Well, I can tell you that what most guys end up, if you're going turbo, it does not matter. You can stick with 5.7 or go 6.4. The 6.4 with the same turbo will spool up faster and will give you more off boost torque down low for just driving. But if it's a turbo and you're just looking for a number, it really, really does not matter which displacement you go with. So 5.7 and just run the 5.7 and be on the side, have a 6.4 going together and let her rip. You can make the same horsepower number with both. It's just how much torque are you going to have down low? The heads are going to flow the same, and you're just going to be looking at RPM at that point or boost number. And Summer saying got a 6.4. And if it's in the budget, you go bigger displacement every single time. It just makes life a whole lot easier. You can make more power with a bigger engine with less headaches than with a smaller engine, usually. Michael saying, I'm in Arizona. What year are you looking for when it comes to the Elko or Nova? Disco era, preferably. So you're looking at like a 74, 75, 76, 77. I love the G-body stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not really a G-body guy. I'd prefer one of the disco era if I could get my hands on one. But even the G-body Elkos are, which would make for a really fun car too. Don't get me wrong. Are going for like just cringy kind of money. Like I am not a player on one of these. There is no way I'm coming in 5 digits on one of these things. They were rode hard, put away wet. Most of them were trashed, and it's just absolutely impossible to. Hey, all right. So for you guys that don't know, Z05 Studios is located here in beautiful Velocito. And so it's a pretty nice night out tonight, kind of muggy, but still a clean night. And there's going to be some folks going out. And so to enjoy some horsepower therapy. And so every once in a while, the guys that know that if the light's on, I'm here filming, they'll come by and pipe up. So that's what that was. And again, Roy, thank you very much. But yeah, Michael, that's really more what I'm looking for. I would like the most, either way would be cool. 75, 77 Nova would be pretty sick in black if you can find one, either way. Arfo saying, "Sup, Mopar gang? Got the cadence right. I like it." Let's see. Summer saying, 10 years ago, I had my eye in an Elko. They wanted $2,000. It looked clean, but turned out it had electrical gremlins. They all do. They all kind of do, I should say. It's what my wife and I call Gen 4 Corvettes. They're just, God. I miss my 93. I miss driving it a lot. I really loved driving that car, but my goodness, the electrical issues that I kept bumping into. Hemi's asking, greetings. Anybody have any firsthand experience with the Arturo AZ850 DRs yet? Baby's going to need new shoes this summer. By the way, love me the Elko and station wagons. Weird, huh, dude? Love me wagon guy, man. Wagon guy's a riot. Wagon guy's the hold my beer guy of the car world. But yeah, I love Elkos have always had, like I say, they've always had a cool place in my heart. And I don't know if anybody, okay, so I don't know of anybody that has any firsthand experience with the Arturo AZ 850 DRs. And in fact, that reminds me, I need to take a note on this. I need to look up and see so I need to call Arturo and find out if their specs on their tires for the 305/35 are correct, because the spec is showing it to be a lot shorter than it should be, or at least it was. And I also need to find out if ever they're going to come out with a 295/40. If they ever came out with a 295/40, I would pick one up, pick a set up. Roy, thank you very much. Saying, I heard Dukes of Hazzard show used Ford Crown Vics under the body of the Chargers. That's what I heard. Technically, you're not incorrect. The new traveling Dukes of Hazzard show, if you will, uses body panels, just aftermarket body panels around a Crown Vic shell. So they do use the Crown Vics for the traveling show. But thank you very much. And then right underneath him, Gary's saying, I have a 2017 Ram. I've used it just as a truck, but I've learned through your show to start enjoying it more than a truck. Been pushing the pedal down a lot more and really enjoying it in a new way. Awesome. That's the whole idea, is to have fun with it. And guys, let me tell y'all something. Remember that it was because of my truck that I got back into Mopars. My original Sport, my 2014 Sport, is what really did solidify me back into, let's see, let me think about this. It was, God, it's been a lot of years ago. Anyway, that truck's what got me back into Mopar more in general than anything else. I love the trucks. And I have this weird affinity for the Dodge trucks because they were always more fun to drive than their Ford counterparts. And the GM variant, you could never get a 6.2 liter. So for me, it was more frustrating than anything else. I couldn't really be a GM fan because I couldn't get the engine that I wanted. So the GM was always kind of a dog to me. I mean, how is it that GM, especially at that time, that was known for 350s and pickup trucks, how could I not get a 5.7 liter LS variant when they already had the displacement there, right? It was weird to me. So that was a weird thing for me. Anyway, getting back to it, I've found, especially with Stormy and Buffy to a later extent, the Dodges were always more fun. And they always were more punchy down low than the Fords, which is something that I always was a bit more attracted to. But again, Roy, thank you so much, my man. I do appreciate that. Twice. Dude, killing it. Let's see. Let me jump back in the middle of here. Someone saying like, share, subscribe. Roy's saying, had a 71 Elko with 400 with an SS hood. Very nice. 71s are nice. I like the 71s. I'm not opposed to finding one if I can find a 71 or 72, just as good. Either way, I would be putting a 400 small block in it. And again, 400 AFR heads, just a good little hot rod something that's not going to spend really more than about 5,500 RPM, make a bunch of power everywhere, and just get out there and have fun with it. Oh, Jeremy's saying he had a 77 Elko with a 2-barrel 305. Love that car. I found one here in Cali for 3,500. If it's clean, dude, send it my way. Pick it up. Send me pics. For business opportunities, you can reach me at bmasontv@gmail.com, by the way. That's something I rarely ever put out there, but that's the channel's email address. Arfos is saying, I haven't had a chance to look at the rear sway bar bushings in my 19 Challenger. Those are a pain in the ass to get to. Yeah, I know replacing the bar itself is a bit of a bear to do, but how about the bushings? Yeah, you probably don't have to. Haven't heard of an issue. Now, you check the end links, make sure everything's cool there, but the bushings, very doubtful. Those things are pretty stout. Matter of fact, if you've ever wondered what they look like, there's one of this. This is a front sway bar bushing. These are Hellcat. They're the white nose. 73 millimeter. Anyway, these things are pretty stout. And even with hard use, they don't really deform. Haven't had any issues, even with cars that have been launched really hard. Haven't run into any issues there. Let me check in with you guys again here. Oh, Base is saying Smoking the Bandit TA and the General Lee were great Hollywood cars. Yes, they were. Let's see. Base saying the trans brake on the new Demon looks a little bit easier to use in the 2018. It might be. A lot of the 2018 had some quirky stuff with it. Whereas the Chevy 11 V8s, that's scary. It's a weird version of the Challenger. Oh yeah, the latest one looks really good. I just never could understand why they didn't do the Cuda. Although if you guys haven't seen it, the Cuda retrofit, I don't know. Dang it, I can't remember who the manufacturer is. Anyway, they make a front grill insert that's like a 70 Cuda grill. Looks good, and a tail treatment. And if you just did that and it was real subtle, and you didn't try to show it off or anything, nobody would be the wiser. It really does look good. Let's see. Base saying, also the Steve McQueen Bullet. Okay, so I have the only thing about the Bullet Mustang that drives me absolutely nuts, and it has nothing to do with the car itself, although I still can't believe that they had a car like that with an open diff. But it's a GT, it's a 390 GT, but it's a 68 390 GT, not a 67 with the weird side grill things that you either love or hate. And if you've got really bad taste, you love them. It is a 68. It just drive people. It's a 67, and they'll take a 67 with the side grill looking thing, and they'll try to. And I'm like, no. I mean, it's no. It's a 68. Anyway, this car like nerd pet peeve, I guess. It's one of my favorite cars, though. By the way. Base saying 0W40. Sorry, said the wrong thing. I was going, yeah. Jeremy, I do it all the time, so you're in good company. Jeremy's saying the classic car market has been getting charged by guys with lots of money because they make more money than the stock market. Well, I tell you what, some of them, yeah, it's weird how much these guys get into these things. One other issue too that I have, and God, I hate to say this, but when it comes to trying to find cars, it's one of the reasons why I'm not looking for a Mopar. I've found even center console cars relatively cheap. The problem that I run into is that they are Bondo tanks. And if you find a deal that's too good to be true, especially with a Mopar. Run like hell away from it. They might be good to look at, but guys, I've taken a look at some of these cars and they're rough, like real rough. So the same thing goes for Chevy C10s. A lot of the 60s and 70s and 80s, boxy stuff included. These guys are just bondoing the hell out of them and sending them out into the world. Now, that being said, glass houses, right? Look, Sierra, my truck was a movie prop. So yeah, there's that, but it was done well enough to be serviceable and I made it right. But good Lord, that thing is miles ahead of some of the garbage that I've seen get sent out into the world. So, Michael's saying that was supposed to be a 440 Barracuda in the movie Phantasm. Was it? I can't remember that one. Arpos. 0-20 would definitely improve fuel costs since the engine would be in the shop for repairs. It would be okay provided that you didn't. The only issue is that those cars with factory thermostats tend to have fairly high oil temperatures. And that's why they use a 40 weight instead of a 20 weight in those cars. If you were racing it and it was only running for like a minute, you could probably get away with it. And no, I didn't do that with Revlon because a car is a car, right? And plus, as far as power production, things like that, you're looking at onesie twosies between that. Stick with the thicker stuff and you'll be a lot happier. Plus, you'll have the right viscosity at the oil temps that you're looking at, even if you have a lower thermostat. Let's see. Oh, Base is saying it looks like I look at Hornets like an ugly salon whore, too small, too weird, and I would rather date the farmer's daughter. Yeah. God, the Hornet's just bad. I just don't know that it's the right vehicle. Again, and you guys have heard me say this time and time again, I will be very happy to be proven wrong with that, though. Sovereign saying, from what I am told, all the 71 movie Vanishing Point Challengers were destroyed as ordered by Dodge. However, there are Vanishing Point Challengers from the 97 remake that are 426 cars. They would be a created car. I doubt very seriously they would use an actual 426, but I don't know enough about the history of those shows, so I could not tell you. But to try, what sucks is that you're rewriting history at that point to interject a 426 car where it never was before. It was a, but you know, it is what it is. Let's see. Dodge had a Bud Light when they thought of the Hornet. They had something else on their mind, I can tell you that. Sovereign saying, my mom had a 71 350 Nova, gold color, white top with the rare moonroof option. Very cool. And again, thank you, Roy. And Gary, I'm glad you're having fun with that truck. That's, again, one of the reasons why I did make the switch from Ford over to Dodge for the trucks, because I was, at the time, kind of a dyed-in-the-wool Ford F-150 guy. The reason why I made the switch over to the Dodge trucks is they were so much more fun to drive. I felt like I was driving a car more than I was a truck. They saying that shows, talking about the Hazard show, 1,200 to ride with Bo Duke and the General Lee. That's a lot of money. I know that Schneider's got a couple of 68 or 69 Chargers, like legit, really nice cars. Pace is saying I wouldn't pay that much to ride with Daisy, maybe in 1980. So they say never meet your idols or whatever. Catherine Bach is her name, and from the original series. And I was with my mom as like just a little guy. And she actually snubbed me at like a meet and greet thing. It was really weird. She was a real bitch. And it's one of the things I never forgot. You know, you create a core memory, right? And that is a core memory for me, is being at that car show, she was there and was going to try to get an autograph. And she said, I remember she said something to, I don't have time for your kid, telling this to my mom. I think my mom almost gave her a right hook. But anyway, it was a kind of a messed up deal. And it's just weird. A core memory for me, though, growing up, little bitty guy. And was her being a real bitch. So, hey, that's just the way I will always remember that person. Oh, Sovereign's saying he bought a General Lee plate from John. Oh, cool. From his store. Cool. Arfo's saying, speaking of trucks, kind of debating on getting one, given how nutty the winters are getting here lately. Any particular good years of the Ram 1500 to try to aim for? Yes. Anything 2017 or 2018 and up. That'll get you far enough away from some of the issues with the take your pick, whether it was heat treating for the cam, roller lifters, or anything like that. I would say I've had no issues like that with my 2017, and it's got 180,000 miles on it now. And it runs its ass off. And again, based on the data, it shouldn't. Based on the weight of the truck, it should. Based on everything, but the truck just is real peppy. So really do like that truck. So I would say, if you can find a clean 18 or a 19, that'd probably be the way I would go. Kurt saying, Professor Mason, change your name to Jay. Maybe they'll give you a car or truck to review. That would be fun. Base is hanging out with Sovereign. Arfo saying, I don't want too new, but don't want something older than me either. Been there, done that for the horror stories. Remember it. Yeah. That's like I say, stick with the newer stuff. You'll be a lot happier with it. Let's see. Sovereign's hanging out. bmasontv@gmail.com. Yes. I'll typically respond to Gmail stuff. I don't mess with Instagram anymore. And the reason why I don't mess with Instagram so much anymore is because I would have people cracking me at all hours of the night. If I didn't remember to turn my phone off, it would just be ding, ding, and it would, it just drove me nuts. But let's see. Dion's saying, if I plan on going with the Hellcat blower and long tubes and the 309 limited slip on my 5.7, would you say, is there any supporting mods that I'll require besides upgraded fuel and power and tune? Not really. Obviously, you'll want to pin the crank. That's going to kind of come with the territory. Long tubes are fine. 1 7/8 would be where I would go with that, which is pretty much where everybody lands with that. You're already going to be in a pretty good place all the way around. It's a pretty tried and true combination. MMX sells the swap plates. Oil pump is fine. Everything is pretty good leading into it. Leave the stock cam in there too. Don't worry. I wouldn't necessarily say you need a cam to do this. You don't. One of the reasons for that is the LSA is a little bit tighter in the 5.7 than it is in the 6.4, the Hellcat. Oh, Sovereign's saying nice. Cuda refit. Yeah, check it out. It's a grill. You basically remove the front fascia and you pull the grill insert out and put the Cuda insert in, and then there's a back panel. The back panel is a little bit cheesy. I probably wouldn't do that. It's trying to utilize the existing rear. I don't know. Maybe they've made some changes since then. Last time I looked, the rear panel didn't look that great. They may have made changes to make it look better, but the front looked really good. Sinister's asking, have you had a chance to check out the stage kit tunes yet to see what they're all about? Sorta. So here's the deal with that. I don't have a data log on them yet. And unfortunately, fastest super stock, he's the first in the nation to have one. And unfortunately, there was a problem with his handheld. Basically, his handheld bricked. So we're going to try to get some data logs, and I'm going to peruse through it when I can. Once he gets them over to me, he's got to get a new handheld. And we will see what the data looks like. If it is anything like I am suspecting that it will look based on the times that that car is run and in the DA that it has run them, there is still a lot left on the table with that tune, at least when it comes to, is the right word consistency? I don't know. I think there's still some component protection that's being left in that tune, but I won't know until I can see the data. And here's the other side to that. Without being able to get a read file, there is a way for me to get a read file on the tune. Either way, because you're replacing the 808 or 807 tune with the 837 tune. And then your race tune is just one that you upload. So you just upload it and then you can read that tune out. The issue is, though, I don't know what you can data log with what he has. So I would actually have to be on site with the car and then data log it, but we'll see how that works out. I don't know. It's not a bad way to go. Let me just start out by saying that. I don't want anything that I say to be misconstrued as the stage kits are garbage. They're not. However, what I will say about the stage kits is that they have to appeal, and the protocol that the calibration engineer has to put together has to appeal and work with the dumbest of the stupid that will purchase it. Which means it has to be able to accommodate the guy that drives the car like an asshole, thinking that the gas pedal is a light switch. Hate that. That's how you blow a car up. Remember that question about how do I get a hold of you for tuning and all of that? It only took one person to cure me of ever wanting to do for the public tuning. But it's that one person that happened over and over and over and over again. Like, yeah, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What about the fifth time? Anyway, and I wasn't even the one doing the tuning. I was the one doing the data logging. And I thought to myself, the way this guy's driving the car, I just need to put it back to stock because he's going to blow it up no matter what. It's the type of guy that would put regular gas in their car, even though they've got thousands of dollars because, well, it's always the they too. This ever present looming ominous they just want you to spend more money. Where I'm just going to put 87. I ain't going to get on it. And then they get on it and scatter it to the 7 C's. And you wonder why, people don't want to mess with tuning. And that's another reason why I don't, is because I had to deal with people complain about tunes that failed when it wasn't the tune that failed. It was other things that caused the failure. And you could see it clearly because the data was gorgeous right up until the point where the thing failed. Right. So anyway, rant on that over. Let's see. Let's see. Let me get back to you guys. Stage kits. I haven't seen the data log on it yet. When I do, though, I will give you my 2 cents. Daniel's saying, really want to start getting my story together for my lady to explain the money, but the more money, the better the story will have to be. Indeed. Sovereign saying the intake looking things on the bullet. Yeah, the ones on the sides, on the hips. Red Dog's asking, Mr. Norm makes a Cuda aftermarket? Maybe. I can't remember. There was a couple of companies that were doing it that looked, like I say, they look good. Robert Eden saying, have 16 scat MMX max effort, all the fixings, 3000 converter long tubes drag pack. What's your thought in trans temps regarding the heat. So here's what I wouldn't worry so much about trans temps necessarily. Typically, you're not going to put that combination in a situation where you're going to be dealing with issues with trans temp. Usually you're going to want to see something around, I mean, they'll cruise at like 200 degrees in some cases. Don't worry about that. You're not going to ever get the thing to like 240 or 250. Typically, it just doesn't work that way. Most of the time, just going down the road, you might be at 178, 190 degrees, somewhere in that range. But a 3,000 RPM converter, I mean, your stock converter will flash to 3,000 RPM. I've got data logs on Scat Packs going back to the beginning of my time with these things, and all of them at launch with that wheel and tire combination right there would flash and hang at 3,000 RPM. So don't worry about it. In fact, as long as your trans temps are between like 150 and 200 degrees, car will be happy. Anything over 130, 140, it'll be happy. Just don't let, a lot of times they just don't like dragging it down much further than that. Heavy Dad saying open diffs piss me off. One wheel peels are so lame. Indeed. Oh, Heavy Dad saying price a decent 68 Charger. Yeah, forget it. It's not even, it's not even cool. They're not, okay. They're neat cars, but the problem is, look, a 68 Charger, how do I explain this without sounding weird? Okay, so I view a 68 Charger, my favorite year is 68, by the way, for the Chargers. Well, okay, yeah, let's just stick with that. Okay, so the 68, one of my favorite. But the problem is any of the muscle car era cars that sell for ridiculous money, I'm real conflicted because they're rare in the fact that they still exist at all, right? So, but they were just playthings back then. I mean, there were inexpensive playthings, frankly, and they fell out of favor for a lot of folks. And so they've been through a lot of different owners. They've been wrecked. There's just so many reasons why you wouldn't have just any expectations for those things to still be in decent shape. So when they're in decent shape, they're pretty cool, but you just have to know that if you get something like that, you are simply the steward for that thing for, whatever amount of time that you have them. Arvo saying, as a one wheelie peely open diff owner, I can confirm. Absolutely. That sounded healthy. Arvo's by night, known as a one spinner winner for sure. Roy is out. Thank you for stopping by, buddy. Slash is asking, how many times have you heard of the Turbo 400 trans going into a Charger or Challenger? Quite a few of the guys that are running race only cars, they'll run a 400. That would be the only reason why you would want to. And that's really for guys that are going way deep into the race car scene. Other than that, you wouldn't want a 400. It's not, and the 400s they're putting into those cars, those are race only transmissions. In other words, most of them you wouldn't want to drive on the street. Very, very aggressive. So I was saying the 1997 version of Ashing Point is bad. Don't bother. Dan Busey saying, shifting gears to theft prevention. How about putting an interrupt switch in the clutch pedal circuit? You can. There's guys that do that. There's guys that put. You can put an interrupt switch or a kill switch pretty much in any of the circuits in the car to create an extra headache for thieves. It can. The only issue that I can see sometimes with kill switches is that there's so many kill switches that are now so common that thieves know where they are. You can have 2 in series, and that can usually help as well. But the push button kill switch thing is so easy to find that most thieves, if given the right amount of time, can get in there and run off with it. You're better off having something like, I can do it because I tune these things. My car won't go over about 8 or 10 miles an hour if I'm in valet mode. And then make sure that you have your, here's a fun, okay. So Destroyer 1320 makes the neutral safety switch blocker plates. Mention in the discount code Mason, it's MASON, and you get 15% off your purchase. So make sure that if you've got one of these cars, at least have the Destroyer 1320 block off plate. Get that. Obviously, my deal with the Hellcat is I also have the RF hub bricked. So you can't make new keys for my car. So there's no way to get into the star connector and program a key. My car won't allow it. You just can't program an extra key. Faraday pouches, which I've got probably a ton of them sitting around here. If you get one of these little minis, remember to take the key ring, go ahead and cut that out of there. You're not going to want that, and take off any other rings or anything else that you may have on your fob so that it doesn't jack up or interfere with that Faraday pouch and make it not work as well as it should. Jeremy's saying, I restore cars for a living. You don't want to know how bad some of these cars are when you have to bring x-ray machine just to find the metal. Dude, so I can tell you this. Golly, and this kills me to say, I've seen it, but I haven't seen it near to the extent that you have. But you'll see a car. This happens a lot with Corvettes, C3 Corvettes. This is the worst case scenario because it's a fiberglass car, but it's a body on frame car. And it is so common. I had a buddy of mine that worked at a Corvette shop, and he goes, dude, don't ever buy a C3 unless you bring it to me. And I said, well, what's the deal? And they just rot underneath. And so it looks great because it's not going to rust fiberglass, right? There's a lot of things you can do to mask fiberglass, cracks, paint jobs, all this other stuff. And it can still look okay, but underneath it'll just be, you might as well it can be a really pretty paperweight. That's about it, which sucks because I really like 3rd gen Corvettes. Basically saying Linda Carter was hotter anyways. Linda Carter would show off them goods too. Robert's got a second question. Thoughts on ported throttle body here we go. Second question on ported throttle body, 16 scat with MMX max effort cam and all other fixings, ported intake, etc. Okay, so here's the thing. If you have a ported throttle body on a car with a max effort cam, and you're talking about you've got the stock intake manifold, I would say that you've got a mismatch combination, because this is where cams and 392s start to butt heads a little bit. My camshafts that I've developed are all kind of smaller cams, and they're to work with the stock intake manifold. You start getting into cams that are like 226, 228 on the intake side, 232, 234, kind of get away with, but 236 on the exhaust side, which is where some of those max effort cams fall, and they end up with a little bit wider LSA. You almost need to run the Holley intake just to capture RPM, but then you run into valve train stability, and the whole thing just you got to have a lot of stuff going to make those combinations work properly, because they're going to want to spin to like 7,200 RPM. And in that case, I would say, well, on that intake manifold, I would have a Hellcat throttle body. I wouldn't have the regular, like an 84 millimeter throttle body. But with your combination, if you've got a ported intake, which is what it looks like you've got, if you've got a ported intake, depending on who did the porting, that can make a difference. There's so much that has to go into it. It's one of the reasons why I quit porting intake manifolds, is because I have to reshape that on a 392, the throat from your point of view, where the intake comes in and then wraps around. There's a lot of area in there, that a lot of material that needs to be removed just to get it to flow a decent number. It doesn't even flow what an 80 millimeter, what the stock 80 millimeter would flow, in my personal opinion. So I would have to put a lot of work into them, and casting thickness being what it is, which is random seemingly with those intake manifolds, would cause me to have to backfill them with epoxy and do all that kind of stuff. So getting back to the question, yeah, go with Fastman, get an 84 millimeter throttle body. That's the one that you're going to want to go with. Tell him B. Mason sent you. He's a good guy. But get a ported 84 millimeter if you've got a stock intake manifold. If you've gone with, or you're thinking about going with a different intake manifold setup, remember that now you're looking at RPM, and you're going to be sacrificing torque down low for power above basically 45 to 4,700 RPM. So in that case, you're going to want a significantly larger throttle body, and it's going to come in the form of a Hellcat throttle body. Not that the 84 won't manage it, but you'll just have a larger opening to work with. Hopefully that answers the question. I've got a lot of experience with the stock intake manifolds, and they are fantastic up to a certain point. And then if you start asking it to do more, it's designed a certain way because they wanted that thing to make a lot of torque down low. The funny thing is that when they're developing the 6.4, when they put a 6.1 intake manifold, a derivative of the 6.1 intake, which is weird, they never offered it to the public. But anyway, it was over 500 horsepower, but it lost a bunch of torque down low. And a lot of that has to do with the camshaft that they use, which has got a really wide lobe separation angle. In fact, fun fact on the 6.4, the cam that's in a 6.4 would make a really good street cam if you have a 5.7 and you're putting a positive displacement supercharger on it. It's kind of like getting a PD blower cam for next to nothing. It's really that good for a 5.7 car. Wouldn't use it for anything else other than that, but for that, it's good. Sovereign's looked it up. Say, I see the rear panel looks like just like a back cover. Yeah, I wouldn't go that route, but the front looks good. X is saying, I'm pretty sure you answered my question earlier. Think you had to step away. I'll get back and listen to it. I don't know what you asked. Did I miss something? Oh, I missed a bunch of them. Apparently, X is asking, what are my opinion of the new 5 Series twin turbo V8? Anything coming out of BMW is going to be good. I would pick it over the Mercedes products. I'll just put it that way. I quit being a fan of Mercedes a while back. Man, I hope I answered your question, X. If not, hit me up and I can hopefully answer it for you. Did I miss anything? I can't remember if I answered it or not. I don't think I missed it. Oh, you're asking about the short tube headers versus the long. Yes, I did answer that one. So yeah, check that one out. But it's in short, I would probably go long tubes. You're gonna have to tune it anyway for sure. Let me get back over here, guys, to y'all. I don't want to miss anybody. Let's see. Here we go. John's asking, is the Scat Pack the perfect car to have for speed that's not as dangerous as a Hellcat or its variants? Yes. Actually, the RT is the perfect car to have for speed that's not dangerous. The Scat Pack will get you 0 to jail every bit as fast as a Hellcat will. Dano's saying, 5th time you got to confiscate their car. Arvo's, damn it, I just got done spending money on my Challenger. Then y'all had to mention the Cuda grill. Thanks. Check it out, man. You might like it. It's a fun weekend project to do too. I recommend wrapping the front of the car though in saran wrap just so that you don't scratch anything. Sovereign's liking the 68 Charger with the round tail lights. Yeah, I'm a fan of it. The Skids is liking the 68 too. Himmy Dad's liking it. Yep. John's asking, do you think the Challengers from 2015 and up will be worth very good money if they are in good shape in 30 years or more because they won't make Challengers anymore? That's a real good question. And this gets into that, respecting your elders type of a thing that'll come up. To some people, yes, they'll be worth a lot of money. They'll be worth the money just for the trip down memory lane, so to speak. Guys that are going to be in like their 60s, 70s, or 80s in that range may still love them, may have their fill of them. I have no idea. But yeah, anytime you can get your hands on a car like a Scat Pack, it's going to be good no matter if it's now or 30 years from now. Base is out. Got to head out. Good seeing you, brother. Robert's saying, reason for my trans-tip question earlier was the car is a track car, mostly 70-30. 3,000 RPM converter seems to raise the temps, especially hot lap, and seen over 200 often. I wouldn't worry so much about 200. I think 230 or 2... No, it's not 260. I think 230 is when you need to start kind of taking a look at things. You guys are heading out. I don't know if you heard that, but apparently they're heading out right now. You got a few of them. Nice. Sovereign saying I can't see the modern Challenger Charger having the same classic values as the original did. Hey, Sovereign, let's not forget that what Buick T-types are going for right now. Those things were nobody even knew that they existed, and now T-types are dragging in a ton of money. Never underestimate the power of the nostalgia member berry dollar. It'll freak you out. And then cars will go up and down and they get crazy with values. In short terms, some are more short term than long term, but I think you know where I'm going with that. X is checking in. Skid saying John is yeah, John, yeah, definitely Hellcats in good shape, maybe well kept scats. Yeah. Dan saying with the small number of manual transmission cars, I would think that a clutch interrupt would be unexpected by a thief. Well, the thing is that it's a manual. I'll put it to you like this. It's a manual car. And a manual car is not as easy of a flip on the black market as an automatic car would be. I'm not going to say that you would have a better chance of your car being passed over if it's a manual. But statistically speaking, that would kind of be the case. But yeah, like I say, there's definitely things you can do. Like I say, there's a lot of different circuits you can interrupt that'll keep that car from getting started. And there's a lot of different things you can do to just make life really no fun for a thief. A brake or a clutch pedal lock is one clear way to really ruin a thief's day. And if they see it, they're going to move on to the next car. That's how thieving works. You go for the lowest hanging fruit. You don't waste time trying to boost property when for every second that you're there, you're increasing your likelihood of an encounter or a situation that you do not want to find yourself in the middle of. And again, it's just a numbers game for these guys. That's it. They find something that's easy to lift, they're going to lift it. If they can't, they will absolutely move on to the next one. Seen it happen over and over again. Let's see. Michael's saying in 77, I was 17. I went to a dealership with my dad and bought a 68 Charger 440 for $500. I wish I had that freaking car now. So Michael brings up a really good point. And this is something that a lot of folks, it's really, really difficult to explain. So to put it into today's dollars, $500 would be like $4,500 today, back in 77, give or take. But back then, you're talking about a car that would have been an 11-year-old hot rod. And, you know, most of them were considered back of the lot cars. And what that means is in car dealership lingo is that you've got cars that are back of the lot are cars that are cheap, cars for kids to buy. They're, you know, for the more traditional old school guys, they're like the hot rod stuff that's in the back, fixer-uppers, you know, mechanic specials, if you will. Those are all back-of-the-lot cars. And every car that you can think of, Chevelle, Challenger, Charger, Cuda, Buick Grand GNX, the list goes on and on. Every hot rod cool car that you would love to have today was a back of the lot car at some point. My Disco Nova would have been or my hope one day, a Disco Nova or Disco Elko would have been a not sexy back of the lot car. All of these cars were blown up. Okay. All of them were wrecked or dinged or dented. They all smoked. They all had some kind of a leak. They didn't run. The transmission was scattered. All of them were back of the lot cars in one way, shape, or form. And that's what people have got to remember, is that is what you're buying when you go to buy one of these things. You're buying somebody's warmed over back of the lot car that they're trying to basically put together and flip most of the time. And, you know, it's one of the issues that you have when you're buying a classic is you're hoping that it's been put back together the right way. You don't even want to come into the conversation thinking that you're getting a cream puff, because you ain't. Believe that. Sovereign Deadpool cam, max effort. Hang on. Oh, Robert's saying 222, 232. Oh, that's not max effort. That's a common, like, just kind of a walking around effort. In fact, the only difference between that and one of my small cams is got a little bit more. It's like it's a 232 instead of a 230, which is functionally no different. So yeah, that's not a max effort cam. That's a pretty common cam. It'd be a stout cam on a 5.7. When you say max effort, I'm thinking, you know, like I say, 232, 236, 240-ish cam when you're really going to try to make some snot. So in that case, yeah, stick with the ported throttle body. You'll be in good shape. X is saying your good video is about, taking off the log manifold. Yep, I definitely chatted about that one. And it's a headache. It really is. When you start getting into the tuning part about putting any kind of tubular manifold header, in this case, on these cars, you've got to make some wholesale changes to the tune to get them to work right. Oh, Joe's asking, what's the setup on the Hellcat? Right now, really not much of anything, but it's got my tune, stock boost, 93 octane. Normally that wheel and tire, there's the car right there. Actually, it's the thumbnail for tonight too. Usually is the thumbnail when I video with this computer. It's got stock brakes, so no lightweight stuff on it. It's got a 309 gear. I did a reso delete on it because I hated the way the resos look, although it's only on my cars that I notice the resonator. I won't even notice them on other cars. But it's got factory catalytic converters, factory manifolds, factory catback, 180-degree thermostat, TBA idlers because I hated the way that the factory idlers looked. And that's it. Factory airbox with a factory filter in the airbox. I don't run it without the filter in it. What else is done to that car? That's it. Factory suspension. Everything's factory in the car. Obviously, it's got the Mopar Performance rear seat delete in it because it actually makes the car functional. And I don't like, in terms of just the look of it, I don't like the rear seats in Challengers because they can't fold down. And to me, that's a wasted option. It's poor engineering. So it's got the rear seat delete only for that purpose. Oh, and it's got the performance spoiler on it because I thought it looked good. And it's got the splash guards because I like the way they look. And they're functional on that thing because doing burnouts, it would send rocks. And I was sick of doing paint chip repair. I'm only so good at that. And although I can get away with some things, there are some that I can't. So anyway, I fixed what I could fix, which does look good. You can't tell. Given my limited skill set, I think I did pretty well. But that's when the mud flaps, if you will, went on the car. But that's it. Basically, it's stock boost. Again, 93 octane. And that's it. And it's gone as quick as a 1005. So it is the record holder for stock boost 93 octane. So 1005. Oh, lightweight front bumper support. And that rounds it off. I'm trying to, there's nothing else done to it. Oh, shorter end links for the 17-inch wheel combination in the rear. But that's it. Just a bunch of little tchotchkes, man. Nothing aside from the gear that you would really consider much of a modification. But in really good air, it's a consistent 10-teen, 10-0 car. In fact, in really good air, it's a very consistent 10-teen, high 10-0s. And then in like decent air, it'll run like 10-20s. You'll get sick of running 10-20s in that car. Daniel saying, I'm so glad I'm still on the live that 6.4 cam and a positive displacement blower is the type of knowledge I tune in for. Cool. Glad that helps. Yeah. So let me tell you why, though. And so there's a reason why. I don't want to just tell you something. I want you to know the why behind it, because when you know the why, that's when you learn. The factory cam in a 6.4 is on the intake side, for all intents and purposes, the exact same as a Hellcat cam. The lobe events where the intake valve opens and closes, aside from some phasing differences, is the same for both cams, with the Hellcat having more duration than the 6.4 cam does on the exhaust side. Intake side's practically identical. Functionally, I should say. So the wider lobe separation angle, what that does for a positive displacement supercharger is kind of it does two things. And there's really no such thing as a blower cam, if you will, except when you're talking about positive displacement superchargers. If you have a wide lobe separation angle, what it does is it does for the intake runner, it makes it very active. What's known as being active means that it has more time where the intake valve is open, where there is no overlap. What that does is it increases boost response because you don't have the intake and the exhaust valve open at the same time for as long. You have higher boost response, gives you better partial throttle hit, if you will. But it's better partial throttle boost response. The second thing that it does is because it's a wide LSA, you're cracking the exhaust valve earlier, which allows for a bigger pop when you open that exhaust valve. You're dumping exhaust sooner, which means the car will rev higher. I'm trying to like give this to you in as small a bites as I can. When you crack the exhaust early, you're hemorrhaging cylinder pressure, which is not good if you're naturally aspirated, but you've got all the cylinder pressure you need because of this big compressor hanging on the top of the engine called a supercharger. So after you're done with what you need for about, say, I don't know, say 180 degrees of crankshaft rotation, get the exhaust valve open as fast as you can, get rid of whatever excess pressure, because you've got a decaying pressure value as that piston is going down anyway. Get rid of the excess pressure, slam that thing shut, and then allow that intake valve to open up again without as much overlap with the higher boost response. And so that's why the wide LSA does really well. Why you see like the LS9 cam has got a real wide LSA, all centrifugal, all positive displacement superchargers, when they're set up really right for the street, have got the wide LSA, and that's the reason why for that. So hopefully that helps you. Nuclear Shark's asking, hey, do short tube headers help on the Ram 5.7 Hemis? Good idea. Doofus was thinking about that for my 13 Ram. Not really. If you're going to put headers on the thing, you're going to go through the headache of doing that. Just go with the long tube setup, and you're going to have to tune the thing anyway. You might as well get the benefit of having low speed torque production bumped up by the long tubes. Let's see. Guys, we're coming up on 2 hours, so I'm going to buzz through this here. And then I got to wrap it up. Let's see. Hang on. Make sure I'm not missing anybody in here. All right, let's see. Joe's asking about the tire setup. Well, the tires are, they're 17-inch rear, any 28 1050 is what I typically run. So it could be, well, I don't really use ET Street R's anymore because of problems there. So I've been running DBRs. Hoosier DBRs are my go-to tire. 28 1050 is what I prefer. And then the Mickey Thompson SR5, the 5-inch Sportsman's up front. They're heavy, I get it, but they work extremely well with the weight of these cars and the weight they've got to carry. And then my street setup is a Turo AZ850s up front with Falcon Azenas FK510s in the rear. 295/40s in the rear, 275/40s up front. Let's see. Jeremy's, $56,000 on the 1320 blows my mind. Sam saying thought the Black Ghost would sell for more. I'm shocked that it came even anywhere near that, but that's legend crafting for you. Jeremy's saying about a lot of QC issues. Never saw any QC issues with the 1320s. Ken saying that Mustang Fox body you have should be worth a lot. Most nostalgic car of the early 90s, Vanilla Ice. Yeah. I guess Foxy would be. I just don't see it that way. That's another thing, is that you get guys like me that look at cars like Foxy and go, why would you spend that kind of money on this thing? Although I did drive Foxy the other day, and every time I drive that car, I know it's the car that I love to complain about because it's always asking me for money. I need money, but it's like anyway. But yeah, it's funny that I drive it and I just fall back in love with it. I need to re-gear that. Everything that I have just about needs to be re-geared. That car needs 355s, not 373s, because it's a 351 car, not a 302 anymore. And so the 373s just get a little bit buzzy. It's not bad. It's just, it could definitely use something a little bit different. Oh, Jeremy's saying that was a base 1320 he was looking at. Jeremy's saying how I would want it, but most of the ones I find are loaded. The 1320s. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those get way over optioned. It's not really the one that I would want. Jeremy's saying looked at a Frostbite for 65 grand. Yeah, I'd rather get a Hellcat myself too. Sovereign's saying, check it out, B. It's been 6 days since the ablation. Very good. And so far, not a single skipped heartbeat or flare up or aphid. Very nice. We'll find out in 3 months if it comes back. Man, I know that the folks that I have known of that have had that done, just stick with the protocol and make sure you're getting exercise, man. It's the most important thing. Ken's asking, have you considered porting the supercharger? I had mine done and it made a big difference on top speed, about 5 miles an hour. Not really. Here's the thing. I thought about porting my snout. Okay. That's the main thing you're looking at is the snout. There's not enough in it. I'm not taxing the compressor enough to really make that much of a difference there. I don't think. I had done testing going with a larger throttle body. By the way, remember that my snout is abnormally large in the opening too. And I tried running larger throttle bodies or throttle body on it. It made no difference at the track. Didn't really even make a difference in data either. And when I say my snout is uncharacteristically large, it's uncharacteristically large by a red eye that I was looking at. I was about 0.5 millimeter larger in actual diameter, if that you can believe that. But yeah, going to like a significantly larger snout to try to feed that supercharger more. I tried a little bit playing with that and it just didn't really, for my boost level, it didn't work. It didn't really do anything. But congrats on that, Sovereign, too. I forgot to tell you that, by the way. Hex is saying, damn, always a catch. Jeremy's asking 1320 sway bar. I went with the scat sway bar on my car. X is asking, B, why do some cars have more horsepower than torque? For example, the BMW N5 will have 500 horsepower and 380 torque. A lot of that has to do with head flow and where the engine is making power. So you have to remember that horsepower is only derivative of torque, and horsepower is torque times RPM. So torque value times RPM divided by 5252. And so because that 5252 number is an RPM number, if the vehicle makes 300 pound-feet of torque at 5,000 RPM, it will have a lower horsepower number than if it makes the same torque at, say, 6,500 RPM. It's just the way that the math works out when you're doing the calculations. Skid's saying, Sovereign, praise God, that's awesome. AFib is no joke. Keep you in the prayers. Absolutely. Yeah, just about caused my mom to check out. So, yeah, it's you definitely got to get it checked out. Make sure that you don't if you're having anything weird, guys, going on health-wise, go see the doctor. You're not going to you can't power out of these issues. It's not like floor it and hope everything works out. It doesn't work like that. You got to get checked out. Just like you get your cars checked out, guys, you got to get your oil changed, got to get your holes probbed and poked and all that. Just get in there. Doctors do this stuff all the time. Nothing to be worried about, nothing to get like embarrassed about. These dudes do this stuff for a living. Get out there, make sure you're getting your checkups, make sure you're getting your yearlies or your bi-yearlies or every other year checkups that you need to be doing. Do that because it's your health, man. I mean, that's the most. Health is wealth, and you gotta keep yourself good. Make sure you're getting your exercise. Make sure you're getting your sunlight. Make sure you're drinking water, but again, make sure you're getting your wellness is number one priority. Oh, Skid, just kind of buzzing through, guys. I got to check out here pretty soon. Sovereign saying, yeah, he's going to get some exercise once the restrictions lift. Start out slow. Don't get in there and try to, macho man your way through it. Don't worry about that. Start slow. Start with what works and go from there. Skid said, if they've told either of you to lose weight, just do it. I was asking by a physician to drop 50 pounds at 37, now 48 years young, and down 75 pounds since then. Very good. Jeremy's saying, yeah, quintuple bypass. Jesus. Yeah, if you go big or go home, bro, I guess. Yeah, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're taking care of your health. That's the most important thing. And I get it, guys. It ain't easy, and it ain't cheap either. I understand all of that, but make sure you're reading your labels. If it's got a bunch of words on the back that you can't pronounce, chances are you don't need to be putting it in your body. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Activity is the most important thing you can do. It's what your body's meant to do, is to move around. So move it around. You'll feel better. You'll look better, and you'll live longer for it. But with that, guys, I got to wrap it up. Guys, love each and every one of you guys. Would not do this without you. Get out there and do something cool for somebody, because chances are, guys, they need it way more than you know. And if you're going to send it, don't bend it. Keep your shiny side up. We will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all have a great one. Adios.